Hello everyone. So today's talk is important for everyone who is involved in IT strategy and especially next year's budgeting. I will share some key information and I hope that it will help with your planning. And also I want to say that if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and I will respond them right after the talk. Okay, to begin, let me introduce myself. So I'm Alex Svystun. I'm CTO and software architect at Techstack. I have been in the industry for over 12 years, and I'm specializing in aligning complex IT strategies with business goals. Today, we'll discuss important questions about IT budgeting. And our main goals for today is to establish common IT budgeting language across leadership. Also, we'll address key budget questions and highlight some often underestimated areas. And we will talk about aligning IT investments with business goals, stakeholders' interests, and tech growth. So we have set our goals, and let's tackle 7 key questions to achieve them. So our first question is, where can we miss important costs in IT budget planning? So I would split IT budget in a few areas, and now I want to talk about each of them. So first section you can see here is infrastructure costs. This is something is like most obvious probably because if we are talking about some like software product, of course, like in most cases you have some infrastructure, some servers, something to support, even if it's something that doesn't require servers. Maybe you have some engineering infrastructure to build, deploy something. So this is pretty obvious part, and this is something that actually always exists in budget, and I think you already know like about importance of this part. But there are few more areas. Second one is innovation and research. Basically, this is something that you should never forget and never forget to put to your budget, because basically, if you're talking about some products, about some growth, like if you're not going like forward, you're basically going backward. And it means that you always need to consider some innovations. And if you're talking about IT industry, a lot of things happening like every year, sometimes every month, and you should actually see how like market is evolving and always consider it and always put it to your budget as well. Yeah. Okay, and next point is operational expenses. Basically, there are some tools, there are some like DevOps tools, there's something to help the engineering team, help with processes, help with some IT tasks that actually pretty much affecting on how effective you are in building your product and supporting your product and growing it. Okay, next point is security and like operation expenses, something that actually you also should think about, because sometimes if you stick with some maybe old tools, don't like focus on them much, you may have some like not optimal processes or like just not using the right tools, and basically it will slow down some of your processes. The next point is security and compliance. This is something that like everybody knows that it's important, but also most of people don't really feel that it's important before something happens. And what I kind of proposing here is, if you have such checklist as you see here, and you should just always ask this question, like, am I invested like to security and compliance? Like, what's the risk if something goes wrong? What will happen if like I got hacked or servers like some personal user information will be compromised? And if you feel that this is something important and it's like always important, then probably you're willing to actually spend the money and put some budget into this area. Next point is data management. Like everything is in IT, like everything in IT is about data. Like because the data is like in most cases for most products, basically data is money. Because you collect some data about your users, it help you to understand your target audience. Like it's always important. Also, you may have like store some data which is like personal data or critical data for users, and you need to always think, what if like I lose this data, for example, or what if this data will be corrupted? So this is point about like having backups, having some recovery plans. So you don't need to think that I stored this data somehow and like forget. This data is like important, and you always need to think why it's stored, how it's stored, and what the like risks about this, like risk of losing this data. Will you just like lose your reputation, or will you lose entire like business if like just imagine if, for example, entire like data collected for years will be somehow like flushed and disappear. So this why it's this point also should be put into budget like every year. The next point is project specific costs. So every project is unique, and basically you may use some like specific business areas, like business domain. You may use some services that provided some help. Like for example, you may utilize some AI tools like OpenAI, and this is something that may be specific to your product, to like your business idea. So this is something that you also need to think on what tools, what specific costs I have. Like, and am I like correctly budgeting it? Am I consider like what choice I have? Like if it's about some like third-party system, kind of, if you have some payment processor, and what payment processor I use? Is it this payment processor fits markets or like regions where it's actually used? Because this also pretty important. Is this tool like so all this like decision making is also important, and in scope of this topic, mostly talking about costs, because some like non-optimal solution or just forgetting about importance of this may affect your entire budget and maybe even like growth of your product. And last but not least is staff and compensation. So here I want to say, and I will say it more later, that basically people is like important. Never underestimate the importance of having like correct team, like and a team who like aligned and willing to work on this product and to make it better. Because basically, even if you have some like lack of some areas, lack of some tooling or expertise or something in some area of your product, or you face with something that is like was not planned or not expected, having a good team can actually make it more like fluent and may it may cover some missing areas. So basically, like never underestimate this point, and always like remember that people is like an important part of budget, and not only budget, it's important part of your business, because having like good team, even if business has some like changed some business idea, made some pivot or something, with right team, you can make it like effectively, and so you may even change your product. You may like rebuild it, but with right team, you can continue, and business will like, keep growing. So this why, like, especially like stopping on this point. And again, this is something that sometimes maybe like underestimated or missed during IT budget planning, because not everyone is understanding the importance of this. Okay, so now we identified some main like areas and potential gaps here, and let's focus on two key parts of IT budget. So I would split budget on two areas, and the first area is core infrastructure. So basically, core infrastructure is something that is kind of must have. So like if you have some maybe like web solution and you need to somehow like host it, you need to somehow manage some licenses, some software to run it, you need to somehow like maintain it. So this is something, it's like core critical thing, because basically without this, anything else like will not work. So you cannot build something features on top of like non-working solution. And here it's affect some areas like monitoring and others that we'll also talk later. And second area is like product functionality. So this is something that is specific to your business. This is some like, specific offers that you're giving to like, your customers, to like, your audience. And as I said, like product functionality is something that usually built on top of this core product, some core platform. But both parts are important because if you want to be like successful in it, you need to have like a good basement, but also a good offer on top of it. And again, if we are talking about budgeting, core infrastructure is something that is handling all this like hardware, software costs, running it like some maintenance cost and so on. And if you're talking about product functionality, there are actually different ways how we can deal with it. And the main part that I want to focus here is it's in the name it build versus buy. Because if you're building some product and some features, you can always consider like two options. You can either use some existing tool that already provides such functionality, or you can actually build it by yourself, build some service, develop this functionality, tune it, like not tune, but actually build it for your specific needs. And both options have some like pros and cons. Because if we are buying something, we will pay for it, like we will keep paying for this solution, but actually we will get to the market with the solution like much faster, and we will save some like time, resources on this implementation phase. So it's kind of cheap in initial phase, but actually then we will pay for it later. Also, sometimes it's not flexible enough, and it may affect your business, like flexibility of some changes. If we're talking about building custom solutions, then of course it will require more time, more resources at the initial phase, but later you'll get your custom solutions that will be like aligned with your needs, and it will be like more flexible for you because you know what like, you want here. So I mean, like regarding budgeting, this is very important question, and very important to understand what's kind of your strategy here, and if you're budgeting some tools, some services, do you want to more budget more on your like team infrastructure and so on, or do you want to like spend this like money on buying some third-party tools and utilize them as much as possible? Because this is one of the key questions, and based on this answer, you will see how your budget will be like balanced. So it will affect it like pretty much. Okay, and okay, so also you see here section key consideration. So this is checklist. You will see such checklist on every like, further question as well. And this checklist is actually built for you. So it should help you to apply this discussion to some specific organization needs, goals, limits, and please take some time to think about these points because they will like help your planning and decision making like after webinar. So just like I will not read them, but please look on them. Please focus on because this question is like really important, and like you will have your answers, and these answers will help you. Okay, and now let's forward. So let's discuss another crucial but often like overlooked aspect, monitoring. So why monitoring is like often underestimated in IT budgets? Because monitoring is something that we like we don't see it if everything is good, and we don't need to look on it because there's some dashboards, maybe there's some alerts, there's some utilities, and until everything is good, it's kind of we feel that it's like not important. But once you have some problems, have something unexpected, or just like faced with some maybe you expect like product growth, you need to have such tools, and having like right monitoring, like right alerting mechanism will help you to understand some like potential problems actually before they affect your business. And one important thing to know about costs of monitoring, that usually monitoring spends some like percent of your infrastructure costs. So see, it can be like 10-20%, sometimes it can be even more, because basically monitoring scales with your product. Monitoring means that if you have like more servers, we need to monitor more servers. If you have some more like load, like more usage, then we expect that there will be some more metrics collected, more data, and costs will also grow. So this is in a normal situation, this is always happen, and just be aware of it. So if you have some simple budget on some core infrastructure, and separately we have this budget for some monitoring tools. The monitoring tools usually much correlated with your infrastructure costs, and if you expect the infrastructure cost will grow, monitoring costs also will grow in most cases. And there are a lot of different choices, like how to actually establish the monitoring. So there's some cloud native solutions. There can be something built in with some cloud. If you have a cloud product, there can be some separate products or some self-hosted or even some like open source solution where you can build it to your infrastructure. Again, it's also like getting back to previous questions and points about build versus buy. So it's also important how you want to build, and how crucial is this like 10-20% of infrastructure costs on your budget, and how you want to like deal with it. Okay, so let's continue, and now we will see how development tools affect your budget and productivity. So if you're talking about development tools, this can be different things. So if we talk about some engineering team, some product team, and like growing, like maintaining, building product, then the first of all, important part is basically how you organize your processes and how some tools like enrich your processes. So if you have like correct tools, they basically help you to build correct processes because they are like built for that, they're like designed for that, and basically such tools like really will save your time, your money on like faster delivery, on more optimized process, on reducing some miscommunication, giving some visibility across different like stakeholders across the company. So also like think and like align level of such tools with level of your team and your product. Because again, if you're talking about some very initial phases, if you just like start up with few members, you may don't need to have some heavy processes, some complex Scrum board, something. It's like maybe enough to do even have some like stickers on the board, like on physical board. But if you're talking about large like engineering team with like a lot of engineers, a lot of processes with some parallel development release flows, then it's important to have some orchestration, to have some visibility, and in this case, some like ineffective parts may like be pretty like much affecting your like, overall productivity. So this is why it's like important to invest and like add it to your budget. Also, like there are like not only processes, but there are some technical things. So there are some CI/CD pipelines, basically how you build this product, how you deliver it, how you maintain, like how to make it stable. But it's also important if you don't have like good tooling and good pipelines built, you may face with some issues where like release is unstable and there's some risks of affecting your customer because of delivering new features or like level of quality is not sufficient. So this is why it's also important to review entire pipeline, also technical pipeline, and see what's missing and what's like should be added to bring the stability, bring predictability to like, your flows. And also important here is some like dev tooling. So, for example, now especially with some like AI tools and with like getting more and more solution based on some AI tools, it's pretty important to see if such solution may improve work of like team members. For example, uh, currently developers already pretty much utilize and help of some AI assistants because they can help with some analysis, they can help with some generation of test coverage. So this is something that also like should not be underestimated because it's just like pure like time saving, which actually increase predictability. So currently, like we are not talking yet about replacing some like team with some AI team, but AI assistant is something that can pretty much like, make a better performance of team just by solving some things that usually is like more like tough and slow for like for humans. So this is like one specific example. And if you're talking about IT budget, if you're talking about some early budgeting, it's important to see, to not forget to ask this question to yourself is what can I do to make this process better? What can I do to make it more efficient? That's why it's important. Okay, we talked about some like current needs, but let's also consider the future. So are you investing in future technologies and experiments? So a little bit we talked about AI, but there are not only this, there are a lot more around it. So basically, and I already talked previously that if business like is not going forward, it's going backward. And uh, I always need to ask this question, like, are we like innovative enough? Are we considering some new things that appear in the market in the world? And basically, this this point always should be like in your budget, and this question always should be asked yourself. So it's critical to do like it's not just about using some tools that you see. It's about actually consistently looking on like market, looking for what's appearing, what's new happening in the world, and actually it's like so sometimes it's not about like investing time on using some tools that are already available, but this is something about research and making some proof of concepts. Uh, basically here, like as an example of such like investing in innovation can be creation of maybe one separate R&D team who will like consistently look on some potential ways to improve product, to use some new technologies, to integrate them into the business. Like again, like having a separate R&D team is maybe something that requires like larger uh, like business, so it may not suit for team with a few members. But even if you don't have like ability to create this team or even create some like get some like member who is consistently focusing on it, in this case you just keep asking this question, keep thinking about this like by yourself. Like basically everyone should put it in the focus, and if there are some opportunities. There always should be some like time resources to actually explore these opportunities. And so this is why it's important to have it in budget, because once you plan them, like budget them, when you have some opportunity, you will have some space to actually look on it, to like dig in some this opportunity, and sometimes it can like change things pretty much. Okay. Um, So balancing today's needs with future plans is tough. But let's talk about actually cutting costs and smart reinvesting. So we previously talked about more like how to spend money, but also important how to save money, because all these areas, like there are a lot of areas and a lot of spending in each area, all of them important. So we cannot just like, skip any of them. But you need to look on what the actually opportunities exist for like cost saving, because sometimes the decision like was made a long time ago, and the decisions maybe was like correct previously, but may not be actual correct current time. So maybe like you bought some like a third-party system which was like at that moment, without having like large audience, it was like pretty cheap. But now with having more and more users, you pay like more and more, and this is becoming like a huge part of your budget. And maybe you need to consider to like build it, like rebuild some it to custom solution. Or maybe it was just like not efficient solution, or some new players appeared in the market, and you can actually migrate, switch to them, which and they will be like more flexible and like more cheap. So there are like a lot of cases. Again, this is more like this is very individual, because every product has like own set of this like budget spendings, and in every product there will be like different answer. But if we reducing costs, also important to like reinvest them. So there's also some questions that will be unique to your product and unique to your situation. So there are no like standard like question about what like amount of money should I reinvest? Like, do we need to just like keep like save money and keep them like kind of in bank account, or should we just like reinvest everything that we are saving? But this is a question that always should be like in your agenda, because if you have some ability to reduce cost, and you may reinvest it to something that will help you to reduce it again. And even if in some short-term perspective you will not see kind of any difference, so you kind of pay the same. But basically, with such savings and reinvesting for long term, like some strategical planning, it will like make a deal. Because I will also think about reinvesting as like key part of your kind of budgeting strategy. And it's also, if you are willing to do this reinvestment, then important to make sure that you have some ability to measure it. So what is your expectation? Not just like put money for something and expect that like, it automatically will like work. You need to have some expectation. You need to have understanding why you're doing it and what the actual output from it. So this is why it's important to do it like thoughtful, not just say like I want to save cost, I want to reinvest. It's like basic things, but before actually doing it, you need to think about it. Okay. So and now with all that in mind, how do you explain it? How do you explain your IT budget and your decisions to stakeholders? Basically, IT budget is something like things like most like technical. So there are some specific tools, there are some infrastructure things, and in like business, there are different stakeholders, there are different functions, and not everyone may be like in this context of why exactly like we need like what is monitoring, what is backups, and so on. So important part, if you're talking about budgeting, about all the strategical planning, is to have some kind of common language across all stakeholders. So if you have some like finance department, they need to understand why our cost in some areas may grow, why it's important, what the actual risks, and what may happen if we not do it. Because then it will help them to actually plan it, and sometimes it's like it's pretty important to communicate some like how this budget works and where we are spending, how the spendings like why this costs are growing or reducing, is it expected or not? Because then, for example, finance team may have like better planning of uh, some like money stuff based on this like vision, because they will understand that, for example, we may face with some unexpected like growth here, or we actually planned with some optimization, and we expect to have some like cut some costs in some area. So it's very important for everyone to talk on the same language and have this understanding why we are doing this, why it's important, what we're doing, and also so it's not only about communication between IT people with non-IT people. It's also about communication within IT department, because there may be different layers. There can be like leadership layer, which may do some like high-level decision, but there can be some like engineering teams level where they actually using something, and like you should never make some decisions that affect actual team without actually connecting and understanding like their needs. Because if you're planning to invest the budget to some development tools, improve some processes with it, and so on, you need to understand what's the actual like expectation, what's the actual vision of team on this question, because you might just invest more like define you might decide that if you invest like twice more money in some project management tools, I expect to have like more efficient process. But maybe it's not the case. Maybe actual team already have like own approach, and just switching to another solution will only like slow down everyone, because maybe they have good way to go with current one. So this is why it's important to also always have this communication within IT department to see like so everyone will see value of this budget, everyone will see reasons why we are doing something or why we are not doing something. So this and also all such like decision, all that like planning should be always communicated from point of business value, some business outcomes, because we are not talking about just like having some list and for example, like we have this list of areas and just decide, okay, let's split money across all areas like equally. So this like doesn't make sense. If we some spending, we need to understand what the outcomes, what we expect from this area, what's our current state, what's our like potential, like what's our problems, and what's our future state that we want to get. And in this case, we'll see what's the value, and this will help with communication. This will help with like basically in this case, when everyone aligned with such a decision, everyone understands value, and everyone is committed to make this decision like to help to actually bring some value out of these decisions. So this is why it's important to have all this communication, because miscommunication is something that may kind of invalidate even good budget decisions. Because if people will not understand why it was made, they may kind of treat it wrong or spend it without the thoughts, without some, like not everyone may have this like strategical vision all the time. They may be focused on some like, current things and will not see why we are doing it and how exactly it will help us in future. This is why it's important to communicate it. Also, it's not about like only talk about the decision, but also listen, because sometimes people may be actually in better context in this area, and they may say some like potential option or changes that will improve the quality of your budget, like budget decisions. Okay, so this was the last question, but before we finish, let's quickly recap today's main points. So what we got here today. First of all, reminding that we have these two main budget divisions. So we have some infrastructure costs and some functional cost, functional decisions. So always like remember to think about both of them. Also, we talked about monitoring. So monitoring is pretty often overlooked, and you need to remember why it's important, and you need to understand what kind of like costs you may get on this area. Also, we talked about some critical investments. So there's some DevOps tools, there's some like, process tools, the experiments, ability to like dig in some like new areas. And also, we talked about strategic approach. So don't forget about this like cutting cost and reinvesting and thinking about how to do it effectively and what the actual value you expect from reinvestments. And we talked about some engineering leadership insights, so sharing value, sharing some reasons regarding budget solutions, and understanding what the like, importance of doing that. Okay, now we covered key questions, and you may wonder about your IT budget next steps. So yeah, I am offering you actually free health check for your infrastructure. Basically, it will show you how your IT, how your specific case like, is doing, and where is point to improve. So to get this free health check, you can scan QR code on the screen, and you can send me a request with some main questions that you may have regarding your product, and we will talk. So don't miss chance to actually get expert advice on scalability, security, and costs. So this is something that may boost station and budgeting on your product. Okay. Thank you for your attention. So if you have any question, just reminding, please them in chat and I will answer. So let me check if there are already some questions here. Okay. Yeah, I see one question. So question is, how can we understand if our infrastructure costs are reasonable? How can we know if they're too high or too low? Okay. Basically, it's if you're talking about like one product and you don't have the expertise of running multiple products and having like different infrastructures, it's can be like tough to understand how to actually like what's the balance between like costs and state of the product. So it's really like there are no specific like formula that will say you that, for example, 10% of your income is good and, or bad. But basically, there are a few key moments that may help you to understand it. First of all, if you're talking about some like software products and basically this infrastructure costs are like key part of your like IT product is key part of your business, and then infrastructure cost basically is something that run your business. So in this case, if you see that IT budget is like significant part of your income and you are not getting kind of profitable because of that, you see that your infrastructure costs may grow without actually like revenue grow. So this means that something is like not right because again, you may have some strategic vision, and you may understand that in initial phase there can be like you may not get to some profitability level, and then it's okay. But if you're talking about some stable running business, and you see that this cost like not aligned, and this cost actually not allowing you to get like get some profit, then it's something like wrong. And like opposite, if you have this costs just like having like few percent of your like revenue, and if this like increasing your budget, adding some tools actually not affecting your revenue, it means that you are in good shape. And basically, in this case, like opposite, you need to think more about reinvestments, about something how you can spend more on IT budget to because this actually will boost, this will help to grow your product. But if you're talking about some kind of average case, so there's some spending, like you have some profitability, and somehow it works, but it's like not clear. In this case, again, what I can recommend is basically ask experts, because ask someone who has this experience of running like multiple product, of seeing difference on budgets and seeing actual difference on like seeing how different decisions affecting like your costs, because then it's so visible what this like if there's some significant part of your budget and what decision were made here, why they were made, and maybe they were like not optimal, or there's some other option already exist. So that's why like expert can help you for this question, because you can like analyze and kind of compare it with some like average market state and so on. Okay, I hope this answered your question. So thank you for that. Okay, if you have any additional questions, or if you want to discuss your IT budget, please get in touch. And thank you everyone for being here. So I hope that webinar will be useful for like your specific IT budget decisions for your planning for 2025. So thank you for attention. Thank you for being here.